So if you think there's no connection between your allergies and your MS, you might want to think again. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of You and Me and Multiple Sclerosis. My name is Pam and I've been living with multiple sclerosis for 38 years. And I have to confess, I myself do not have any allergies. I don't have respiratory or digestive or food or anything. As far as I know, no drug allergies. That only means that I haven't really done a lot of looking into this. And so today I'm quite fascinated by some of the things that I found, and I'm looking forward to sharing those with you. First, tips for folks with MS who deal with allergies. I found an article in MS Focus magazine, MS and Allergy Season by Matt Cavallo. The article gives 3 tips for managing allergies with MS. And the first one is see an allergist. Not surprising. An allergist is a physician with a specialty in the diagnosis and treatment of asthma and other allergic diseases who identifies asthma or allergy triggers. To identify triggers, you will go through a scratch test where this allergist will prick your skin with substances like pollen and pet dander that are known allergy triggers. Your skin will show a reaction to the items you are allergic to. The allergist can then recommend a treatment plan, which could include, if you are like me, getting allergy shots to help you build a tolerance to your allergy triggers over time. If you see an allergist, make sure to tell them about your MS and any MS medications that you take. Also, notify your neurologist if you start an allergy treatment regime. Okay, there's a couple things in this tip that I just want to elaborate on. Seeing an allergist is probably not the first thing that people think about. When they have an allergy, they just go to the pharmacy and they hunt around on the shelf and try different products, whatever they find, to try and resolve their allergies on their own. I'm not discouraging that, but I also think in the long run, you might want to see an allergist because with MS doing who knows what to our bodies, we might as well find out from the professionals what we need to keep in mind when we're treating our allergy. For all we know, some of the medications that we use, even though they're over the counter, might be causing problems with our multiple sclerosis without us even knowing. I think with all the different videos I've done on this series so far, you may be getting that idea that our bodies are so interlinked, every system interlinked with others, very complex. And so introducing a new variable into that mix, especially when you're already dealing with multiple sclerosis, you never know what you might trigger. You don't really want to do that, so you might want to ask a professional. At the very least, you should ask your neurologist about treatment for your allergies. They may even have specific recommendations for you or specific warnings about certain types of medications or ingredients or whatever that you might want to be careful of, especially if you're taking a disease-modifying therapy, because there might be interactions that you want to know about. Well, they go on to tip number 2, self-care. Once you know your allergy triggers, you can start to protect yourself from allergy triggers. Here are some self-care tips that can help. A, if you're working or enjoying outdoor activity, consider wearing an allergy mask. B, take off your shoes outside before you come inside so you don't track pollen through the house. C, change your air filters every 90 days. D, shower before bed to remove any allergens that may have gotten on your body or hair throughout the day. And then finally, E, keep the dog or cat off the furniture. A rule that I am violating as I write this. I hear ya. I've been pretty good keeping my dog off the furniture, but forget it with the cat. There's just no way. Our beloved four-legged friends can be an allergy trigger. They can also carry pollens or other allergens from outside to inside the house and get those allergens all over our furniture. Now, I want to say about this that just because you don't think you have a pet allergy to dander or whatever does not mean that those allergens might not be causing some trouble in your body that you're not necessarily relating to allergies. They may even trigger MS symptoms, or you might have a pseudo exacerbation. You just kind of don't know. It's something definitely to talk with your neurologist about, because this is so much more complicated than I used to think it was, for sure. The more I learn about how the body works and all the different ways our immune system reacts to its environment, the more I realize that I have to be very careful what I decide I'm going to bring into my life. And then finally, tip number 3, explore your treatment options. Allergy medications are common and available over the counter. As mentioned earlier, an allergist can also provide an allergy shot regime in addition to the over-the-counter options. Before you consider starting an allergy treatment, it is always a good idea to notify your neurologist. Also, when you are in the pharmacy area looking at possible treatments, ask a pharmacist about the different options. Over-the-counter options include antihistamines, inhalable steroids, and eye drops. Find the combination that works best for you. It may take some trial and error, as each brand or generic equivalent works in different ways. Now, there's something of a repeat here of what was said earlier, but some of these ingredients, as I mentioned, might actually be problematic for you if you're on certain kinds of medication or treatment for multiple sclerosis. They mentioned steroids, for example. Well, what if you're already on prednisone? You need to be sure you don't take too much. It could actually be very dangerous. So I'm harping on it, but it's because I care. I don't want to see anybody do something to their bodies to make their life even worse. So just be cautious. And it says here as the final paragraph, while there is no direct link between MS and allergies, a correlation has been established between inflammation and histamine. If you are suffering from seasonal allergies, you can seek relief. Allergists are doctors who can help you. You can also take self-care measures around your home and explore treatment options. MS is tough enough without allergies, but luckily, allergies are treatable, so you can get some relief and concentrate your attention on fighting MS. But as I looked into this, I discovered that there's more to it than that. I found an article that I'll share with you that's about MS and allergies. There's actually more of a connection than I was aware of, and perhaps more than you are aware of. Well, I found some good information in an article on multiplesclerosis.net, the connection between MS and allergies. And the nice thing is that this came out in October of 2022. I've been noting that a lot of the stuff on the connection between MS and allergies is actually quite old, but this is very new information. In their introduction, they say that there are many things that experts do not understand about multiple sclerosis. Well, is that definitely an understatement? For example, they do not know what causes MS. However, research shows that there may be a link between MS and allergies. This link is not yet proven, but researchers are studying the possible connection. They are also trying to learn what this connection could mean for MS treatments. They go on to talk about MS, that it's an autoimmune disease. This means a person's immune system overreacts and attacks certain healthy cells in the body. In MS, the immune system attacks the protective cover on nerve fibers. This cover is called myelin. Allergies are also caused by immune system response, and this to me is the intriguing thing. In allergies, the immune system overreacts to an allergen like pollen or pet dander, so that mechanism between allergies and multiple sclerosis, it's similar, and it definitely bears looking into. These immune reactions, they say, make MS and allergies seem similar, but the specific immune responses that happen in MS and allergies are different. With allergies, the immune system produces histamine. Histamine is involved with the inflammatory response that causes allergy symptoms. Histamine may also be involved in the inflammatory response that occurs in MS and other autoimmune conditions. But researchers do not know if there is a definite link between histamine production and multiple sclerosis. There is still no proven link between MS and allergies, but there is a lot of research that points to a possible connection. Research on MS and allergies, that's the next section. A 2019 study focused on the links between different types of allergies and MS. It followed people over 10 years. Researchers looked at information like periods of increased symptoms, relapses, and damage shown on MRI scans. The study found a link between MS and food allergies. In the study, people with food allergies were more likely to have relapses and MS activity on MRI scans. This does not mean that other types of allergies are related to MS. It also does not confirm the link between MS and food allergies. I wonder what it does do then. Another study looked at the relationship between allergies and MS in children. This study found that having allergies did not increase a child's risk of developing MS, but researchers found that the children who had both MS and food allergies were less likely to have MS relapses. Now that is downright intriguing. This study grouped food allergies and food sensitivities together. A food sensitivity means that a person's body cannot easily break down certain food, so eating the food may lead to digestive upset. But the exact reaction caused by a sensitivity is different from the reaction caused by a food allergy. So this study cannot be directly compared to other studies that looked only at true food allergies. More research is needed. But what could this link between allergies and MS mean for people with MS? It is possible that the link between allergies and MS could mean more treatment options for people with MS. A small clinical trial in 2017 focused on using an antihistamine drug called clemastine fumarate on people with MS. The trial found that this drug may increase eye performance. Some people also had improvements in myelin growth, remyelination, which of course, as we've said, it's kind of the holy grail for those of us who've had MS for some time. We'd love to have our nerves remyelate, and if that isn't going to happen, I don't think any drug is really going to help us that much. The trial measured visual evoked potential. VEP is the time it takes the signal to get from the eyes to the brain. If this time is slow, it may mean there are problems with the visual pathway. In people with MS, this pathway can be damaged. The damage causes vision problems. In the trial, some people who took the antihistamine had improved vision. This could mean that antihistamine might help people with MS, but more research is needed to confirm this finding. It would take many more studies like this before doctors could begin to prescribe antihistamines to treat MS. So in other words, don't get too excited just yet. The next article goes a little deeper, looking specifically at MS and food allergies to see what the links might be there. Quite surprising. An article published in Science Daily on their website was titled "Food Allergies Linked to Increased Disease Activity in Multiple Sclerosis." And this article came out in 2018, which, okay, that was 5 years ago. That's not that long ago, though. Let's just take a look at some of this. It says here that food allergies are associated with heightened levels of disease activity in patients with multiple sclerosis, shows research published online in the Journal of Neurology, Neurosurgery, and Psychiatry. Allergic patients had more relapses and greater odds of further nerve damage visible on MRI scans, the findings indicate. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Both genetic and environmental factors are thought to have a role in the development of MS, and known risk factors include high altitude, female gender, smoking, low vitamin D levels, Epstein-Barr virus infection, and teen obesity. And we've covered some of this in some of the videos that I've made in the past, but yes, there are certain factors that put us more at risk. But exactly how these factors might be linked to a heightened risk of developing the condition isn't clear. Allergies to pollen, dust mites, grass, and pets, drugs and foods, such as dairy products, shellfish, wheat, and nuts, have been mooted as potential risk factors, but the research to date has been inconclusive. Mooted, I think, means that they've been ruled out. To try and shed further light on potential triggers, the researchers assessed possible links between environmental, drug, and food allergies and MS flare-ups, and evidence of disease activity on MRI scans of 1,349 adults with the condition. So you can't say they didn't have enough participants in the study. It says that the researchers added up the cumulative number of relapses each participant had had over the course of their illness, which averaged 16 years, and included any MRI scan evidence of disease activity, as well as patients' own assessments of their symptom severity on their last clinic visit. Well, there's something that might rule me out anyway, because I've gone to various neurologists and I'm not really even sure that the records that I have from way back in the day are readable by modern equipment. I know that when I had my first and second MRIs, I was able to go to the records department and get them put onto a disc, which I then gave to my new neurologist, but my new neurologist said that the equipment that they had wouldn't read those old files. I wonder how much that's really happening. Even 16 years, that's a long enough time. Might be hard to actually get all that information. So their initial analysis wasn't necessarily giving them what they were hoping for, but this paragraph here. However, when compared with those patients with no known allergy, food allergy was associated with a cumulative rate of disease flare-ups that was 27 times higher, even after adjusting for potentially influential factors. And any type of food allergy was associated with higher odds of active disease as detected on an MRI scan at the last clinic visit, but a food allergy was associated with more than twice the likelihood of active disease compared with no allergy. No associations were observed for symptom severity or disability with any type of allergy. So that's good news. Just because you have an allergy doesn't mean your MS is going to be worse. It just means you're going to have more active disease and more relapses. Still not a great thing, but interesting finding. Here's their disclaimer. This is an observational study. As such, it can't establish the cause, added to which questionnaire responses were gathered at one point in time and relied on subjective assessment. Further research will be needed to confirm the findings. But, say the researchers, there are one or two possible explanations for their observations. Food allergies might boost MS inflammatory activity. Genetic data suggests that MS and various autoimmune diseases share some key features in common, and food allergies may also alter gut bacteria, which can produce neuroactive chemicals that affect the central nervous system. All of those hypotheses are very fascinating, and I think a number of them are being researched or have been. But to me, it's rather intriguing that both MS and food allergies, or any kind of allergy really, are basically inflammatory responses to environmental triggers, or in the case of MS, inflammatory response to our own nerve tissue. So there's got to be some commonality there that we can learn something from, and I'm glad that there's some research going on. As the researchers say in conclusion, our findings suggest that MS patients with allergies have more active disease than those without, and that this effect is driven by food allergies. Okay, so apparently food allergies are more damaging to your multiple sclerosis than are respiratory allergies. And I guess in a way it kind of makes sense, because the baddies that are circulating around your system in the blood when you have a food allergy are probably more invasive overall than those from respiratory. But I'm no scientist, so take what I say with a grain of salt. And then finally, let's look at an article and some research that's being done on the possibility that a drug that used to be widely available over the counter could actually help with MS in terms of remyelination. Now there's a surprise. Well, in the course of looking around, about connection between allergies and multiple sclerosis. I found an article from quite a long time ago, from 2017, in Medical News Today. MS could be reversed with an existing allergy drug. And it says that in a recent phase 2 clinical trial, an over-the-counter allergy drug was shown to improve nervous system function in patients with multiple sclerosis. 2017. Well, that was a while back, huh? So let's find out more about this and then see if anything else is even happening with this. I had not heard a thing about it. Skipping down here to the section, New MS Drug on the Horizon, it says in 2014, studies carried out by Professor Jonah R. Chan at the University of California, San Francisco, showed that clemastine fumarate may be a candidate for the treatment of MS. I don't know how many of you have taken Tavist products for allergies or other over-the-counter sorts of things, but that's the active ingredient in Tavist. You may also be aware that recently Tavist was taken off the over-the-counter list. You can still get it with a prescription, but apparently there were some concerns about stroke, I guess. So you can't just go in the pharmacy and buy it on the shelf like you used to be able to do. But if it bears some promise for multiple sclerosis, who knows? Let's take a look and see what they have to say. They finished a phase 2 clinical trial, and that was published in The Lancet, which is a highly reputable journal. And it says here that clemastine fumarate was at first approved by the FDA in 1977. It is an antihistamine medication for allergies and has been available over the counter since 1993. Not recently, however, since this was published in 2017, they didn't know and it was going to be taken out of the pharmacy. Its potential to treat MS is therefore as surprising as it is welcome. According to principal investigator Dr. Ari Green, to the best of our knowledge, this is the first time a therapy has been able to reverse deficits caused by MS. It is not a cure, but it's a first step toward restoring brain function to the millions who are affected by this chronic debilitating disease. There's more details about the trial, but the highlighted paragraph here says that the analysis showed that the drug increased the speed of the neural signals from the eye to the back of the brain. Even once the experimental group stopped taking the medication and moved on to the placebo, the increased speed persisted. Well, that's exciting. People thought we were absolutely crazy to launch this trial, comments Professor Chan, because they thought that only in newly diagnosed cases could a drug like this be effective. Intuitively, if myelin damage is new, the chance of repair is strong. So, of course, the converse of that is if you've had myelin damage for many years, the chance of getting any remyelination going on is pretty small, and I've been hearing that from doctors and from other articles and videos that, yeah, those who are in the early stages of MS do better. But the implication of what this study is saying is that that may not be the case. In the section assessing myelin regrowth, it says, in the current study, the researchers were not able to measure myelin regrowth using MRI scans. However, this is primarily due to limitations in technology, and as Professor Chan says, we still don't have imaging methods that have been proven to be able to detect remyelination in humans. Regardless of this, the evidence that remyelination occurred is strong. There are no alternative explanations as to how VEPs could have increased. Also, in vitro studies in human cells have shown that clemastine fumarate can stimulate activity in oligodendrocytes, which are cells which produce the myelin in the central nervous system. There is still a long path ahead, but the results are encouraging. Dr. Green is cautious not to jump the gun, saying by no means do we want to suggest that this is a cure-all, but it is difficult not to be excited at the potential of this drug. Yeah, okay, so I'm guardedly excited to know that work is being done towards this, but the proof is in the pudding. So they mentioned clinical trials. Let's go out to clinicaltrials.gov and see if that's really true. So going out to the clinicaltrials.gov website, I searched for multiple sclerosis with a subheading of clemastine fumarate to see what I could find. And I was actually very surprised to see how much there is. Look at this. Okay, so here's the completed one that was done at UCSF. That's the one that we saw in the article. But you can also see that they're actually actively recruiting for trials of the clemastine fumarate as a remyelinating treatment in internuclear ophthalmoparesis and multiple sclerosis. So that has to do with the eye. It's very specific, but that's coming out of Amsterdam and they're recruiting. And another one that's recruiting is in Cambridge in the United Kingdom. You can take a look at these. They look like they're all pretty specific to what they're looking for, but I think they kind of have to be because, as they said in the article, the current technology they had when they were doing the MRIs was not showing any actual remyelination. You couldn't detect it. But if I suppose that some of the other technologies that they have, like with the eye, the OCT scans that they have for the eye and some of the other technologies might allow them to see more, and maybe that's why they're focusing so much on something that specific. And here's one that is not yet recruiting, and this is out of San Francisco. It's called Assessing Changes in Multiparametric MRI in MS Patients Taking Clemastine Fumarate as a Myelin Repair Therapy. So as I go through this, you might be thinking if you live anywhere near these places and you're interested, you might check it out. Because this is, after all, an over-the-counter medicine, or it used to be. It's not exactly a high-risk trial to be involved in. You might want to think about that. But other than that, you can wait and see. You can bookmark this page and just see how it turns out. As they publish results, they link them from here. They've got one in Bethesda, Maryland. There's another one in San Francisco. So quite a few different ones that are going forward. And yeah, they're looking at everything from optic neuritis to remyelination. Quite interesting stuff. Here's Dr. Green's paper. I did go out and look for that, and I found it in PubMed. I'll put the link down below. We won't really go through it, but as you can see, it did get published in The Lancet, as they said, in December of 2017. It's called Clemastine Fumarate as a Remyelating Therapy for Multiple Sclerosis, a randomized controlled double-blind crossover trial. So that's about the gold standard for how you do clinical trials. And if they're excited by the results, I guess I am kind of wondering why we haven't heard more about it. Well, I hope you found all of that enlightening and interesting, because I sure did. I didn't know much of this at all, and I'm going to be following it a lot more closely, especially the research that's being done on clemastine fumarate, because there's bound to be something that comes out of this that could be useful for those of us with MS. The more we know, the better, and the more tools we have in our arsenal, the better. And I think I would probably appreciate the price tag on the clemastine fumarate as opposed to some of the DMTs, which are thousands and thousands of dollars. But that's all I have for you today. So until my next video, take really good care of yourself. I'll see you soon.